Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Saraswati Devi,
His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Natgari Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki Prem Sigvahus Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Govnath Shankun Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Mayapur Dham ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki Shri Shri Nitai Sachi Sutta ki Shri Giri Govardhan ki Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
So is anybody joining us for the first time? Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself? Please just say your name.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Samara. Pleased to be here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Big Haribo for Prabhu. So today we're very fortunate to have an association.
It has to be set on electronic shutter.
Maharaj has
If
been with us
it's
for
on
the
the-
past 2 days doing Srila Prabhupada
on the
Gram
tripod,
Seminar, and
it has
today
to
is
be
the third
set
day
on
of this very sweet
electronic
Katha.
shutter.
So let's please raise our
How
hands
to
and
do that?
welcome Maharaj by loudly
It has to
chanting.
be set. Electronic shutter. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj ki Srila Prabhupada ki
Try. You got to sing. Turn the thing around so I can. Mike.
Another mic.
Namo Vishnuvaraya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Visheshashivaya Vasudhara Vishitari Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Prabhupad King. Shri Shri Nitai Gora Hari Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Sachi Sita Ki, Shri Giri Govardhana Ki, Go Premanande, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, devotees and friends. How nice to be here with you today. And you may or may not be aware, but we have, over the last few days, Friday and yesterday particularly, we've been having a seminar on Srila Prabhupada, based actually on the main biographical book written about Srila Prabhupada, very substantial book, a few thousand pages. So we've been going through that, and we, yesterday afternoon, evening sometime, we finished the first volume. There's 6 volumes, and we finished the first one. And then we've just started on the second volume. And what we're going to do today, of course, normally we read a verse from Bhagavad Gita or some other one of our main scriptures. What we're going to do today is continue describing different biographical things, different events which happened with Srila Prabhupada. And there are many important lessons to be learned, some really important lessons, actually. So it's not just like telling a story of someone's life. It's also very instructive. So yes, sit back and relax, and let's hear some nectar about Srila Prabhupada. First of all, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. First of all, a few prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyacha Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpaturibhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And just a thought, those of you sitting just in front of Namacharya Prabhu, not you stay there, just move forward a bit, because, some people will be coming through. Right? Forward. Thank you. Very good, thank you. Right, so, devotees and friends, Srila Prabhupada, it's a long story, but he has come to the point of opening his first official temple, real Hare Krishna center in America, in New York, at a place called 26 2nd Avenue. And interestingly enough, a few of you are aware, but we still have that temple. We gave it up at one point. It was a rented place. I believe we've bought it more recently, but then we're able to get it again. So it's been a Hare Krishna center basically since, I think June 1966. Where were you in June 1966? Okay. So Prabhupada, this is New York, what's called the Lower East Side. It's on Manhattan Island, down in the it's down in the northern end, actually, of Manhattan. And the center is going and growing. And could that dear little child who's making that wonderful devotional noise just keep calm? Right. So the center, first Hare Krishna center outside of India is going, and it's sort of, you could say, business is booming. Those were the hippie days. I don't think here in South Africa there was much of like a hippie phenomenon in the 60s, mid to late 60s, and then into the earlier 70s. But in America, in Europe, particularly Australia, New Zealand, all these, the main westernized countries, the hippie movement was a very big thing. It was massive. Basically, the great majority of the young people were members, to whatever, different degrees, of course, in different ways, but they were all members of the hippie movement, which means rejecting materialistic life. That was the essence. Just the way of life of working to make money and to get a little flat. There's a song even, they all live in little boxes. You might remember that. Some of you have been around. Yeah, Peter, Paul, and Mary, they all live in little boxes and they all look just the same. That way of life, they really, at least at that stage initially, they rejected strongly. And they were looking for alternatives. And who should come along but Srila Prabhupada with Krishna consciousness, which is just a great alternative to the very, very ordinary materialistic way of life. So there's Srila Prabhupada there. In the center of the hippie movement in the Lower East Side of New York. And there's all these thousands of youngsters living around in the area and not far away. And they saw that what Prabhupada is teaching is, in certain respects, like what they think, that the materialistic way of life is not good and we should aspire for something higher, something transcendental. And even in those days, interest amongst the young people in India, it was very big. Yeah, yoga, meditation, these things were very popular. So anyway, there's Prabhupada now in his center at 26 2nd Avenue in Manhattan, and young people are coming. Some of them are actually looking for a guru. Of course, we've all heard this term guru, or in English we say spiritual master. And for someone who's trying to develop their lives spiritually, then to have a guru, to have a spiritual master, a spiritual teacher, spiritual guide, and not just guide, but like a master, someone who's not just guiding you, go this way, go that way, but directing you in your spiritual life. Do this, don't do that, you can't do this, you must do that. Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari Ki Jai. So yes, all these types of people were coming and finding Krishna consciousness very relevant and very interesting. And Prabhupada was there. He would have programs Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings. So these people would come and they'd have big kirtan, wild kirtan, playing all sorts of instruments. All sorts, trumpets, different types of drums, guitars, and there was a harmonium, but nobody knew how to play it. So they just played one note, just like, And different interesting things happened. Here's a description of one very interesting thing which happened. There's Prabhupada, one of the nights of the evening programs, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's not it's smaller than this, the main room. It's probably half the size of this, the main room in 26 2nd Avenue, but it was full. It was full of these young people, very thoughtful young people who are looking for meaning in life. And who should walk in but a drunk, like an older man, a street person, living in the streets and drinking all sorts of things. And he came in and walked through, if you can imagine, the entrance. If Prabhupada's sitting here, this would be kind of where he's sitting at this end. The street is out there, and the front door is there where the back door is. So this drunk came in and pushed his way through the crowd. And he's obviously drunk, because as he's going through, he's saying, he's greeting everyone, "Hi, how you doing?" And that sort of thing. I believe he offered his bottle of drink also. Would you like? But nobody stopped him. And Prabhupada didn't stop him. And he came through. And if you've been to 26 2nd Avenue, you would know the toilet is, if this is the end of the room, the building, the toilet's in about 5 meters. It's actually in the middle, not the middle, but it's in the room. And the man walked through, opened the door of the toilet, and you know what he did? In one hand, he was waving a bottle of some unmentionable substance. In the other hand, he was waving a roll of toilet paper. And he opened the door of the toilet, put the toilet paper in, and walked out in the same way that he had walked in, the same sort of jolly, sociable mood. And Prabhupada's just watching him. So as he started walking out, he walked past Prabhupada, because Prabhupada's sitting sort of just in front of the toilet. And Prabhupada began to laugh, and he thanked the man. Prabhupada said, thank you very much. And the man went out the door, and that was it. And Prabhupada said, just see, it is a natural tendency to give some service. Just see how automatically it comes. Just see, he is not in order. That was Prabhupada's way of putting it. It's not like he's a drunken, bum or something. Just see, he is not in order. But he thought that here is something, let me give some service. Just see how automatically it comes. This is natural. So, that's a very important lesson in Krishna consciousness. It's really important that it is part of the human condition to render service to others. Just like it's part of the human condition to have two arms. It's just normal. You don't find people with one arm or three arms unless, there's something extraordinary about their condition. Two eyes, not one, not three. Yeah, two ears, but only one mouth. That's important, isn't it? It's more important to hear than to speak. Yeah. So like that, it's part of the human condition to render service. And it's more or less unstoppable, unavoidable. So here's this man. He doesn't know what's going on actually, but somehow he gets some inspiration to provide some toilet paper, along with offering a little juice. Yeah, okay. So as Prabhupada said, just see, he is not in order, but still he has this tendency. Just see how automatically it comes. This is natural to render service. So it's not really a question of will we render service or will we not. It's more, it's actually just a matter of what sort of service will we render. This is important, really, extremely important. Just like it's part of the human condition to walk or run, to move on your feet. That's just part of the human condition. And every single human being in existence moves on their feet, unless they have some disability or something like that. It's just, that's the way it is. But it is not part of the human condition to fly. I don't mean in airplanes, because that's not really flying. I mean, flying, like the birds. It's not part of the human condition. And that's why you don't find any people flying as such. I once saw a documentary on the history of flight. And, it didn't begin with the Wright brothers. You know who the Wright brothers are? They were apparently the first ones to fly like in a kind of an aeroplane sort of thing, like a meter off the ground for 50 meters they flew. Yeah. So the history of flight, it began like at least 100 years or a couple of 100 years before that, with a man putting like wings on his arms, attaching them to his arms, getting up on the top of a big, like a 4 or 5 story building and jumping and flapping. And he broke bones because it didn't work, because it's not part of the human condition to fly. So to render service is part of the human condition, but not just the human condition. It's part of our eternal spiritual nature. Jivera Swaruphoya, Krishnera Nitya Das. Lord Chaitanya spoke that verse. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jivera Swaruphoya, that the eternal nature of the living being is Krishnera Nitya Das. Das means servant. To be the eternal servant of Krishna. So even this fellow who's just, not in order, well out of order, but still he got that inspiration, let me render some service. And that's what we're doing in Krishna consciousness. We try to educate our devotees and just the people to render service to the Lord. That's the essence of it. So, okay, then Prabhupada, the next point, what I'm doing, I'm going through the Prabhupada Lilamrita actually. And at this stage, there are different incidents which occurred while Prabhupada was just in the early days in 26 Second Avenue. So, drugged hippies sometimes caused disturbances because, they used to smoke a lot of daca, marijuana, and around that time, someone synthesized LSD, and that was just a massive, massive thing. Young people taking this LSD. And in fact, there's an incident, there were a few incidents in which people came to these programs that Prabhupada was doing in the evenings. And Prabhupada, sometimes, quite often, he would make the point that we do not take intoxication. And not only do we not, but for anyone who wants to progress spiritually, taking intoxication is you just must not do it. It's so totally counterproductive, completely counterproductive to take intoxication of any sort. So sometimes Prabhupada, or even often in his classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he'd make that point. That don't take intoxication, don't take LSD. And on a few occasions, some of the people who had come to attend the program, for the first time, they would then challenge that, what's wrong with LSD? They felt it was good for their spiritual development. So one evening, someone challenged like that. Prabhupada was saying, don't take LSD. And so this fellow said, Swami, have you taken LSD? Do you know what it's like? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I have not. And he was there, the young man was there with a few friends. And so they all, a small group there, turned to each other and went yeah, got him there, caught him there, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So the man said, how can you criticize LSD if you haven't taken it, if you don't know what it is and how it works? How can you criticize it? You haven't tried it. And his friends were going, yeah, right, got him. And Prabhupada answered. Prabhupada was such an incredible expert at answering questions, including silly questions, and to sort of cut a person down to size. So Srila Prabhupada answered that question. Here's this fellow going on about, you never tried it. It's hypocritical, and how can you talk about it? And Srila Prabhupada answered, You do not need to taste stool to know that it tastes bad. And it's like, oh, okay. It's a good one, isn't it? It's a very good one. So one drugged young boy came in and is causing a disturbance by not exactly asking a question, but trying to state something about life, under like heavily under the influence of LSD. So Prabhupada says, all right, and he kept on interrupting Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, this gentleman is impatient. We shall stop here. Now, what is your question, sir? So this boy, practically we tend to place emphasis on those we identify with the fact itself. Many people are meant to explain the why-fores and wherefores of the metaphysical truth that I think, therefore I am. Did you follow that? No, you can't follow it. It's just, a bent mind. Prabhupada says, what is your particular question? The young boy, I have no answer to that question. Rather, but that I attempt, I live, I breathe. Prabhupada, yes. And the young boy again. So ability, tell me why I have nothing to do with it. May I understand the why-fores and wheres. Prabhupada, that's all right. Boy, I have difficulty in you. I have difficulty in saying. Prabhupada, so long as we're in this material world, there are many problems. Young boy, not many problems. It is not many problems. This is the greatest fact. I know. Prabhupada, yes? Boy, I also know that the whys and wherefores of my particular. Prabhupada, yes? Young boy, I didn't come here, but let me explain my position. This isn't necessarily, I feel I must. I think the difference is to learn. You'll find it in innumerable times by the same token. Maybe we're able to reconcile the fact of individual being for a long time to find out why. Did you follow that? You got it? Good question. Prabhupada turns to one of the devotees and says, his name is Roy. Roy, can you answer his question? It is a general question. You can answer yes. And then Prabhupada says, enough questions. Let us have kirtan. So then at that point, devotees and friends, Prabhupada has the center. It's one room. It's just one room. Out the back, there's an apartment building just 10 meters away or less. And Prabhupada is renting an apartment on the second floor of the apartment building. So he's not living in the center. But some of the particularly boys and occasionally a girl, they would come to stay in the center overnight. And some of them, they really moved in and became part of the team with Srila Prabhupada. The only condition was they had to follow the four regulative principles while they were in the center, and they had to help in some way. They had to do something, like help clean up or that sort of thing. But they didn't know about the four regulative principles yet, and particularly the one about no meat, fish, eggs, onions, garlic. We've heard of that one, right? We've heard of that one. They didn't know about that. So sometimes these young people, they do something to help. They sleep overnight, get up, do something to help. Prabhupada would come in and chant japa. They might chant some japa with him or just sit there and sort of just be there. Then there'd be some prasadam. And then in many cases, they would then go out for the day and just roam around. And there was a hamburger place. Do you remember hamburgers? No, that's good. Well done. There was a hamburger place just up the road about, 100 meters or something. And they would congregate there sometimes. Prabhupada would go walking, something to do or just go for a walk. And one time he was walking up and he walked past the hamburger bar, and there were some of these young people just, partaking, shall we say, in the hamburger bar. Prabhupada came back and looked in the window, and they were still there, and they saw him, and they waved to him. Swami, hi. And then they came back later in the day, and Srila Prabhupada, for the first time in the history of Krishna consciousness in the Western world, Srila Prabhupada said, generally we don't eat meat. And the boy said, really? Oh, we didn't know that. It's a revelation. So, like this, certain things which are just standard in ISKCON now, they were introduced at certain times. I remember in England, it was 1974 sometime, and I was staying in Bhaktivedanta Manor, just outside London, and the local GBC one morning, after the greeting of the deities, he gathered the devotees in the temple room and said, we have a new program we're introducing today. It's called Guru Puja. Yeah. And there's a song we sing. He handed out song sheets. So we're going to be doing it every day, straight after the greeting of the deities. So let's get into it. That was the first Guru Puja, at least in England. It probably started just a few days before in America. So like this, things got introduced step by step. So, sometimes up to 10 of them would stay overnight. And there are a few examples of strange people with strange ideas given here. Once a young hippie on an LSD, they used to call it a trip, found his way upstairs in the apartment block to Prabhupada's apartment on the second floor. And he just walked in and sat opposite Prabhupada. And he looked straight at Prabhupada. And he said, right now, I am higher than you are. I am God. Prabhupada bowed his head slightly and said, please accept my obeisances. And then Prabhupada said, would you mind going? I'm busy. So God got up and walked out. And one young man once approached Prabhupada and said, what book will you lecture from this week? Will you be teaching the Tibetan Book of the Dead? And Prabhupada said, everything is there in Bhagavad Gita. we could study one verse for 3 months. Yeah. And actually, Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, once in Dhaka, which is now part of the capital of Bangladesh, but it was part of India in those days, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta lectured on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 hours a day, 3 hours, teen ganta, haradin, for 3 months on the first verse, one verse, first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3 hours a day for 3 months. And sometimes they would ask, what about Nietzsche? Have you heard of Nietzsche? Existentialism. Better to not have heard of him. What about Nietzsche? What about Kafka? You know Franz Kafka? What about Timothy Leary? What about Bob Dylan? Because all these people have philosophies. And Prabhupada would not attack the person, although they're all, we must not be disrespectful to the dead, but they're all nonsense, actually. They're just really full-scale nonsense. Prabhupada wouldn't speak against them, but he would ask, what's their philosophy? And then the person would try, often quite unsuccessfully, to explain what ideas the person had. And Prabhupada would defeat the ideas. And he wouldn't, criticize the person so much. Prabhupada would say, they're all mental speculators. Here in this material world, we're all conditioned souls. Your knowledge is imperfect, your senses are blunt. What good is your opinion? We have to hear from the perfect authority, Krishna. One boy said, well, I'm a follower of Vedanta myself. Prabhupada said, do you know what the word Vedanta means? He did not. Do you know what is the first verse of Vedanta? Do you know? Do you know? And the boy said, well, no. And Prabhupada said, then how can you speak of Vedanta? Vedaischa saravir ahameva vedya. Krishna says he is the goal of Vedanta. So if you're a Vedantist, the Buddha, Prabhupada said, do you follow him? Boy said, no. Prabhupada said, no. You just, not a company, like a society, an official legal entity. And he wanted to call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Someone suggested to Prabhupada that, the people in general, and particularly in those days it was very true, they didn't know what Krishna is, what Krishna means, who's Krishna at all. Krishna's God. They had no idea. So the person suggested, just a well-meaning suggestion, why don't you then call it the International Society for God Consciousness? Because then everyone will understand. And Prabhupada said, God is a vague term. Krishna is exact and scientific. Prabhupada said, if Westerners don't know that Krishna is God, then the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will tell them by spreading his glories in every town and village. It's an interesting point, isn't it? That Prabhupada, of course, used the term God sometimes, but he generally used the term Krishna, because Krishna is the name of God or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, the word God is a German language term. It's not even English initially, just got adopted whenever in the past. But yeah, Krishna is the name. Whereas, for example, we find in Bhagavad Gita, I know some of you have read Bhagavad Gita, and I'm sure many of you, if you've been coming here for a while, you've heard classes on Bhagavad Gita. And it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna raises a point, and Krishna responds. And so when Krishna starts to respond, what does it say? How does it tell us that now Krishna is speaking? What does it say? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. You do not find, there is not one place in Bhagavad Gita where it says Sri Krishna Uvacha. Because Krishna is his name. I mean, like the main name at least for the Supreme Lord. Bhagavan, it's also a name, but it's also a title. Krishna is not a title, it's a name. But Bhagavan literally means he who possesses all opulences. Bhaga. Bhaga means opulence, and Van means one who possesses. So, no, it's an interesting point. Otherwise, you might be surprised or confused even. Why not Sri Krishna Uvacha? I mean, it's all Hare Krishna, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's all Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But now here in Bhagavad Gita, it's all Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Yeah, because Bhagavan it's a name, but it doubles as a title. And it's the Sanskrit equivalent, basically, of the term God, you can say, more or less, like that. So anyway, Prabhupada made it clear, we will not call it International Society for God Consciousness. We will call it International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And in this way, people will learn who is Krishna. And this will be very good for them. So Prabhupada, one of the young boys who was coming, had a friend who was a lawyer, a Stephen Goldsmith. And having a surname like Goldsmith, what does it mean? He's Jewish, yeah. Anyway, that's just by the way. So there were many Jewish young people who got involved in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada discussed with that lawyer, and they drew up the documentation. But now they need membership. You can't really have an official society, an official religious organization with just one member, just Prabhupada. So after the evening class one night, Srila Prabhupada announced that we are now going to form ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and you are the members. So he got everyone to sign up. Everyone became a member. Many of them didn't know what a society is. Legal registration, many of them didn't know what it is. But they all signed on the dotted lines. Yes, so let's see. Now, Prabhupada, you had those young, mainly men, Occasionally a lady would stay, but it was like at least 90% men or more who were staying overnight. Some of them were sort of coming and going, but some of them, this was like their place of residence. And Prabhupada, he was training them. He was training them. He trained them how to clean a floor. Now you might think, clean a floor, what's that? Any fool can clean a floor. Or what do? You just wave a mop at it. Here, take this. But Prabhupada taught how you clean a floor. First thing you get is 2 buckets, not 1. 2 buckets. One is for the clean water, the other is for the dirty water. And with your rag, you get down on your hands and knees, and you put the rag where? In the clean water. And then you clean some area, little area, and then what do? You squeeze it out into the other bucket, which is the bucket for the dirty water. And Prabhupada showed them himself. He got down on his hands and knees, and he did it. Yeah. So we even need to be taught how to clean a floor if you're going to really do it nicely. Otherwise, if you just have a mop, basically the main thing you do is just move the dirt around from one side to another. It's, at least to a large degree, it's like that. So, and then every day, as things were building up, every day at least 12 people or more took lunch. And lunch, in the beginning, lunch was served up in Prabhupada's apartment. It was a 2-roomed apartment. So one room was sort of a meeting room type of thing. And Prabhupada, let me just read what Satswarup Maharaj says, because he was there at that time. So they used to call him Swamiji, until some of them had been to India and mixed with Prabhupada's godbrothers and their disciples, and they found out that the term Prabhupada was used. So they came back and asked Prabhupada, can we call you Prabhupada? And he said, yes. And Prabhupada said, actually, Swamiji is a 4th-class term. Yeah, 4th class means it's really not very good at all. So, but at this stage, Prabhupada was Swamiji. Swamiji personally cooked the prasadam and then served it to us upstairs in his front room. We all sat in rows, and I remember him walking up and down in between the rows of boys, passing before us with his bare feet and serving us with a spoon from different pots. He would ask, what did we want? Did we want more of this? And he would serve us with pleasure. These dishes were not ordinary, but sweets and savories like sweet rice and kachoris with special tastes. Even after we had all taken a full plate, he would come back and ask us to take more. Yes. And then after, so that's nice, isn't it? Prabhupada, he cooked it all in the beginning, because he was the only one who could cook anything, what to speak of, proper, like traditional Indian foodstuffs. So he'd cook it all, and then he'd serve it. Yeah. And he would serve it with pleasure. He would serve it very nicely. Yeah. Anyway, let's not get into it, but he did not do buffet style. But the devotees would sit down, and after some time, some others would serve also. They would walk between the lines, because eventually there are too many to fit into his little second room upstairs, so they would take prasadam down in the main hall. Yeah. So Prabhupada did it very nicely, asking, do you want more? In some cases, he would tell them, take more. You must take more. And he would sort of advertise the preparations. Look at this. This is sweet rice. It's really nice. Take some more. Right, Prabhupada. And anyway, like this, he did it with pleasure. Not like he's thinking, is there going to be enough left over for me? I better not serve more of this preparation. That sort of strategic thinking. So even after we'd all taken a full plate, he'd come back and ask us to take more. And Prabhupada made good chapatis. Good chapatis outside of India, even many places in India, good chapatis are quite rare. Good ones. And devotees, you may not know, but in our midst today, we have a world-class chapati maker. Did you know that? Anukul Krishna Prabhu. Really. You learned from Sachikamar Prabhu, did you? Or Bhakti Devi? Oh, he's better than you, yeah. So anyway, one boy, he would take at least 11 chapatis every time, and Prabhupada would encourage him to take more. Are things starting to happen back here? Okay, devotees. Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hare Ki Jai. So anyway, we are going to continue this seminar in the future. You will be informed, and you can come and just hear more of the glories of Prabhupada and different pastimes and extraordinary things he did. So anyway, you can meditate on this for the time being. If you want to really get into it and understand Prabhupada more, please get a set of Prabhupada Lilamrita. It's amazing. Prabhupada's the main biography of Prabhupada. It will help you to understand Prabhupada. It'll help you to understand Krishna consciousness. And it'll help you to appreciate Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we will now have, Arti is there. We will have Kirtan for the Arti. Everyone can stand up.
Namo Vishnu